Hello and welcome to session 5. If you're on this one, we are halfway through the first block. So that feels great, doesn't it? Normally you find it goes a bit slower and then we're over the tipping point. You'd be like, oh, Steve, I can't believe it's already assessment time. So welcome to session 5. We're looking at the art of communication. And within this section, we're just looking at how we can articulate ourselves slightly more clearly and concisely when we're conveying our messages. So I'm going to start by popping up my screen. And here we are. We've got session 5, communication, information, ideas, opinions clearly and concisely. And here we've got the session plan, the PowerPoint, the handouts, and the extended reading. Wonderful. Let's just have a look. And let's start. So, by the end of this session, we're going to cover why it's clear to communicate importantly, barriers to effective communication, tips, some role play. We're not going to do the role play, actually, I've got a video to show you. But you can do the role play as well. The role play around the job interview, driving license, verbal and non-verbal forms of communication, active listening. Again, by the end of this, you will definitely give grasp of active listening. It's in every module. Use clear and concise language, avoiding jargon, looking at cultural differences, language barriers, personal biases, body language, visual aids. Practice makes perfect, some conclusions, some more activities and some exercises. Wonderful. So let's start off with welcome everybody. Today we're going to talk about the skills that is crucial in both our personal and professional lives. Of course, we are talking about clear communication. Whether you're trying to convey your thoughts to a loved one, or impressing your boss with a presentation, being able to communicate is key, or effectively is key. Look at that, I got that wrong, there's irony. In this presentation, we'll cover various aspects of clear communication, from identifying those common barriers to providing practical tips for improvement. But before we dive into the detail, let's take a moment to appreciate the importance of clear communication. After all, it allows us to connect with others, share our ideas, and ultimately achieve our goals. So, why is clear communication important? Well, clear communication is essential in all of our lives, from personal relationships to business interactions and in educational settings. When we communicate clearly, we're able to express our thoughts and our ideas effectively, which can lead to better understanding and stronger connection with others. In our personal relationships, clear communication can help prevent misunderstanding and conflicts. Oh boy, does it. For example, if we're upset with our partner, it allows us to clearly express our feelings and explain why we're upset. And I would say most arguments all fall down to poor communication. Not listening, not talking, or just assuming we know how each other feels. This can help your partner understand their perspective and work towards a resolution. In business, clear communication is crucial for building successful partnerships and closing deals. If you're pitching a new product or service, you need to be able to clearly explain its benefits and positions. And in education, clear communication is necessary for effective teaching and learning. Teachers must be able to explain concepts, and students must be able to ask questions to seek clarifications if needed. So let's look at some of the barriers to communication. Effective communication is essential in all aspects of life, but there are several barriers in which can be difficult to convey information clearly and accurately. One of the most common barriers is language, especially when communicating with others who speak different languages or have limited proficiency in the same language. This can lead to misunderstanding, confusion, and frustration. To overcome this barrier, it's important to use simple and clear language, avoid slang and jargon, and be able to understand when to communicate with non-native speakers. Another barrier is to effectively communicate Sorry, I'm going to start that all over again. Another barrier to effective communication is cultural differences. People with different cultures may have different communication styles, values, and norms that can affect how to interpret and respond to messages. To overcome these barriers, it's important to be aware of different cultural differences, respect diversity, perspectives, and adapt your communication style to fit the need and to the expectation of your audience. Additionally, personal biases can also impact communication by influencing how we prepare and respond to others. To overcome these barriers, it's important to recognize and challenge our own biasness and be open-minded and empathetic and active listening to others. Excuse me. So, tips for clear and effective communication. Active listening is a key concept to clear, effective communication. This means fully focusing on the speakers, asking questions for clarification, and providing feedback to show engagement. Using clear and concise language is an important tip for communication. This means avoiding unnecessary jargon or technical terms. Instead, use simple language that's easy for everyone to understand. And I think if we look at this chart, you'll fully agree with me, we have no idea what it's trying to say. So here, we've got a couple of things that you can do, some role plays. One is a job interview. So I want you to sit down with somebody. Imagine you're sitting across from an interviewer, dressed in your best dress attire and ready to impress. The interviewer begins asking questions and you respond with confidence and clarity. You imagine you maintain good eye contact and use positive language to convey your enthusiasm for the job. Thanks to your clear, effective communication skills, you make a great impression and increase your chance of getting a job. In this role play scenario, you demonstrate how clear and effective communication can be and can help you succeed in job interviews by using active listening, concise language, and body language skills. You can make strong impressions to the interviewer and increase your chance of landing a job with practice. With practice, these skills can become second nature and help you succeed in any interview. So here, you're just looking at how you're going to present yourself, do a little bit of role play on how you will use your body language and interpersonal skills. Again, our role play with driving license. In our role play scenario here for a driving license, we have an instructor and a student who's working together to improve the student's driving skills. The instructor begins explaining the basics of the driving and demonstrates how to operate the vehicle safely. As the lesson progresses, the instructor provides clear and concise information using positive reinforcement to encourage the student and build their confidence behind the wheel. Throughout the lesson, both the instructor and the student practice active listening, asking questions when they need to clarify and provide feedback to ensure that they are on the same page. By communicating effectively, they're able to work together more efficiently to achieve the goal in a timely manner. So this really only works, this role play, if you've been in a situation such as driving, because actually when you're driving for the first time, it's a bit terrifying, really. You're behind the wheel of the car and you're listening to the instructor because your eyes are on the road and you're really worried about what's going to happen. So listening to that driving instructor who gives you those instructions becomes really important. And it's that level of listening skill that we need to be thinking about. Verbal and non-verbal communication. Verbal and non-verbal communication both plays important roles in conveying messages, ideas, opinions clearly and effectively. Verbal communication includes spoken words, tone of voice, and influences, while non-verbal communication includes body language, facial expressions, and gestures. Both types of communication work together to create a complete message, and it's important to be aware of how we interact in order to communicate effectively. For example, if someone says, "I'm fine," so pretty much like, "I'm fine," with a sarcastic tone and cross their arms, their verbal and non-verbal communication are sending conflicting messages. Similarly, if somebody is given a presentation and their body language is closed or distracted, it can distract from their effectiveness of their verbal messaging. By paying attention to both verbal and non-verbal communication, we can ensure that our message is clear and concise. We've already covered active listening. So we know it's the case of being present, focusing, eye contact, and all that lot. Using clear and concise language. So using clear and concise language is essential for effective communication. When communicating complex ideas, it's important to break them down to smaller terms for easier audience to understand. This not only helps ensure that your message is received, but also makes it appear more credible and knowledgeable. One way to simplify complex ideas is to use analogies or metaphors that relate to the audience's experiences. For example, if you're having a technical concept or a non-technical expert, using an analogy that compares to something that people are familiar with, like a car engine, additionally using shorter sentences and avoiding unnecessary jargon. Avoiding jargon when communicating with others. It's important to avoid jargon on technical language that may not be familiar with everyone else. Using jargon can often lead to confusion or miscommunication, which can hinder effectiveness of your message. For example, if you're explaining a complex idea to somebody who's not familiar with that technical term you're using, they may become lost to the main point, what you're trying to say, instead of trying to say something simple and use clear language that everyone can understand. This will help ensure that your message is received as it's intended and the communication is effective. Cultural differences can significantly impact on communication, leading to misunderstanding and misinterpretation for messages. For example, in some cultures, direct eye contact is seen as a sign of respect and assertiveness, while in others it may be viewed as aggression or disrespectful. Similarly, the use of humour or sarcasm may be interpreted differently depending on cultural backgrounds. To navigate these differences effectively, it's important to approach communication with an open mind and a willingness to learn from other cultures. Some tips for effective cross-culture communication include being aware of nonverbal cues, avoiding assumptions based on stereotypes, and asking questions to clarify meaning. By taking the time to understand and respect cultural differences, we're able to build stronger relationships to communicate more effectively with people from diverse backgrounds. Those language barriers can greatly impact communication, making it difficult to convey information or ideas effectively. It can lead to misunderstanding and confusion, which can be frustrating for both the speaker and the listener. One tip for overcoming language barrier is to use simple language and avoid complex sense of structures. Additionally, using visual aids such as pictures, diagrams to help clarify the meaning. Well, if only they did that in the previous session. Finally, it's important to present an understanding when communication with somebody who speaks from a different language to clarify what is needed. We need to understand our personal biasness. Personal biases can have significant impact on communication. We all have our own biasness, whether we're aware of them or not. These biasness can affect the way we interpret information and the way we communicate with others. To recognize and overcome personal biasness, it's important to first acknowledge that they exist. Take the time to reflect on your own biasness and values and how they may influence your communication. It is also helpful to actively listen to others to try and understand it from their perspective, even if it differs from yours. Finally, be open to feedback and willing to learn from your mistakes. Body language. Body language is an essential aspect of effective communication. It involves non-verbal cues such as facial expressions, gestures, posture, and convey the meaning of emotion. Body language can help you connect with your audience and build rapport, whilst negative body language can build a barrier and misunderstanding. To use positive body language, start by maintaining eye contact with your audience. This shows that you're engaged and you're interested in what they have to say. Use open gestures, such as uncrossed arms and relaxed shoulders, to appear approachable and welcoming. Finally, pay attention to your posture. Stand tall, avoid slouching, and project confidence and authority. Visual aids. Visual aids can be a powerful tool to enrich communication as they help convey information in a more exchanging and memorable way. Whether this is charts, graphs, or diagrams, visual aids can help to simplify complex ideas and make them easier to understand. When using visual aids, it's important to keep a few things in mind. First, make sure the visual aid is relevant to the topic at hand and support the message that you're trying to convey. Second, keep the design simple and easy to read, with clear labeling and minimal distraction. Finally, use the visual aid to supplement your presentation, not replace it. You should still be the main focus. Remember, practice makes perfect. Improving your communication skill is not something that happens overnight. It takes practice and dedication to develop an ability to communicate clearly and effectively. The good news is that anyone can improve their communication skills with regular practice. One way to practice your communication skill is to seek out opportunities to communicate in different settings. This could be simply to strike up a conversation with a stranger or a volunteer to give a presentation at work. The more you practice, the more comfortable and the more confident you will become in the ability to communicate effectively. In conclusion, effective communication is a vital skill that can enrich personal relationships, improve business, overcome the facilities, success in education. By overcoming these barriers, such as communication difficulties, cultural barriers, biasness, and personal prejudice, we can communicate clearly and effectively with others. Practical tips such as active listening, using clear and concise language, and avoiding jargon can help us convey our ideas and opinions more effectively. By practicing these skills regularly, we can become better communicators and achieve success in all aspects of our life. Now, before we finish, I just wanted to show you one person who I believe to be the master of communication. The verbal and linguistic skills that this person holds is phenomenal. The grace and dignity in which they talk and present is phenomenal. I'm not talking about Sir David Attenborough, although he could have been my top choice. However, I am talking about Stephen Fry. He is not afraid to have a debate or a discussion. He's not afraid to participate. And he does it with such grace and elegance. So we're just going to watch a little bit of Stephen Fry. And I quite like this because he's talking about political correctness and he debates it incredibly well. So, observe his body language, look at his, listen to his pace, his tone, hear how he enunciates, how he says the words, see how he engages with the audience and how he brings you on this journey.
If you to see this issue in terms of left and right, devalued and exploded terms, as I think they are, will believe that I am betraying myself in such causes and values that I have espoused over the years. I've been given huge grief already simply because I'm standing here next to Professor Peterson, which is the very reason that I am standing here in the first place. I'm standing next to someone with whom I have, differences, shall we say, in terms of politics and all kinds of other things, precisely because I think all this has got to stop. This rage, resentment, hostility, intolerance, above all this with us or against us certainty. The Grand Canyon has opened up in our world. The fissure, the crack, grows wider every day. Neither on each side can hear a word that the other shrieks, and nor do they want to. While these armies and propagandists in the culture wars clash, down below in the enormous space between the two sides, the people of the world try to get on with their lives, alternately baffled, bored, and betrayed by the horrible noises and explosions that echo all around. I think it's time for this toxic, binary, zero-sum madness to stop before we destroy ourselves. I'd better nail my colours to the mast before I get any further in this. It's only polite to give you a sense of where I come from. All my adult life, I have been what you might call a lefty, a soft lefty, a liberal of the most hand-wringing, milksop, milk-toast variety. Not a burning man the barricade socialist, not even really a progressive worth the name. I've been on marches, but I've never quite dared wave placards or banners. Am I a loathed member of that band, an SJW, a social justice warrior? I don't think highly of social injustice, I have to say, but I character myself mostly as a social justice warrior. My intellectual heroes growing up were Bertrand Russell and G.E. Moore, liberal thinkers, people like that, writers like E.M. Forster. I believed, and I think I still do believe, in the sanctity of human relations, of the primacy of the heart and friendship and love and common interest. These are more personal, interior beliefs than they are political exterior convictions, more a humanistic version of a religious impulse, I suppose. I trust in humanity. I believe in humanity. I think I do, despite all that has happened in the 40 years of my adulthood. I am soft, and I can easily be swept away by harder hearts and harder intellects. I'm sometimes surprised to be described as an activist, but over time I have energetically involved myself with what you might call causes. I grew up knowing that I was gay. Well, in fact, from the very first I knew I was gay. I remember when I was born looking up and saying, that's the last time I'm going up one of those. I'm Jewish. I'm Jewish, so I have a natural, obvious horror of racism. I want racism, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, xenophobia, bullying, bigotry, intolerance of all humankind to end. But that's surely a given amongst all of us. The question is how such a golden aim is to be achieved. My ultimate objection to political correctness is not that it combines so much of what I've spent a lifetime loathing and opposing, preachiness, with great respect, piety, self-righteousness, heresy hunting, denunciation, shaming, assertion without evidence, accusation, inquisition, censoring. That's not why I'm incurring the wrath of my fellow liberals by standing on this side of the House. My real objection is that I don't think political correctness works. I want to get to the Golden Hill, but I don't think that's the way to get there. I believe one of the greatest human failings is to prefer to be right than to be effective. And political correctness is always obsessed with how right it is without thinking of how effective it might be. I wouldn't class myself as a classical libertarian, but I do relish transgression. And I deeply and instinctively distrust conformity and orthodoxy. Progress is not achieved by preachers and guardians of morality, but to paraphrase Yevgeny Zemyatin, by madmen, hermits, heretics, dreamers, rebels, and skeptics. I may be wrong. I hope to learn this evening. I really do think I may be wrong, but I'm prepared to entertain the possibility that political correctness will bring us more tolerance and a better world. But I'm not sure. And I would like this quotation from my hero Bertrand Russell to hover over the evening. One of the painful things about our time is that those who feel certainty are stupid, and those with any imagination and understanding are filled with doubt and indecision. Let doubt prevail.
There. So what you saw was that the peaks, the troughs, the humor, the voice, the tone, the delivery, the body language, the great use of the English language there by Arthur Stephen Fry, who is so eloquent with the way he talks, and his sentence structure is just sublime. And I think a lot of that comes from you know, his passion for intellect, and he really does stand for this ideology that we should be able to think, and we should be following sheep, and we should be independent, and he's such a great endorsement of speaking. So if you want to learn how to communicate really effectively, watch some of his YouTube videos. They're just amazing, like the way he can captivate the audience and just bring you in. But that delivery, when you're doing your presentation, just taking a few drops of his pace, his tone, his delivery, his style, getting that meaning across and portraying it to the audience. I mean, this is a debate, and in the room, he's got everyone nodding with him. So he's already got everybody agreeing with him before the debates even started around his political correctness, a force for good. And as he said, he's open to both sides. He recognises his biasness, but he's open to both sides. And I think that's a great demonstration of what we were talking about that biasness, just recognising that we all have biasness, and that we need to be able to recognise that. Anyway, I waffle on as I always do. We're going to move on to Lesson 6, express opinions, arguments, and support them with relevant and persuasive evidence. We've seen some great examples so far. We saw the news article, we've seen Stephen Fry, and we'll watch a bit more of that, because obviously that is a debate, and in there you will see opinions, arguments, and support being a bit more persuasive. So we'll watch that as we move on. So thanks for watching. Any questions or comments, leave them in the inbox, or by all means contact me and we can have a discussion. Till then, take care, and I will see you all in the next module. Bye for now.